Wilson is having a fit about Caitlin Clark possibly relocating to Europe. Deezer hijacks the move, ensuring Caitlin stays in the WNBA because Asia believes she is the biggest appeal. A significant shift from Asia, who disparaged Caitlin's privilege. She is at last beginning to understand Caitlin's impact on the WNBA. Asia thinks she is the star, despite the fact that this entitlement is crazy. When Caitlin made a major impact on the league, she ought to be the one receiving the attention.
Entitled players in the WNBA just can't seem to understand is, you get what you put in, and right now, you are getting exactly what you deserve.
Let's be honest. No one valued Asia Wilson prior to Caitlin Clark. Although Asia presents herself as a kind person, she has recently revealed that, like the other WNBA players, she can be extremely envious. She will leave the WNBA in pieces to make the transfer, and no one will be discussing Asia as they did in previous years. Asia wants to convince the media that she is a huge draw even if she knows deep down that she isn't because she won MVP. You're not fooling anyone, Asia.
Don't y'all want a greater profile? Don't y'all want more notoriety? Don't y'all want more
A move like this to the EuroLeague might have opened doors for other WNBA players to consider chances abroad, establishing a standard for players in the future. However, when Asia Wilson intervened to thwart Clark's objectives, this prospective agreement took an unexpected turn.
Now, Asia Wilson was a more dominating player and deserved to be the MVP, and unanimous.
Wilson's meddling in the transaction was more than a small annoyance. It was a conscious effort to prevent Clark from taking advantage of the chance. According to reports, Wilson thought she should represent the EuroLeague rather than Clark after winning the WNBA MVP award. This was more than just a matter of taste or basketball. It revealed a more serious problem of rivalry and competition between two of the best players in the league. Her WNBA standing and PP title ought to have made her the most desirable player for European teams to target. It probably seemed insulting to her that Clark was picked over her in spite of Wilson's achievements. Asia's efforts appear to be motivated by the conviction that she should be given preference for foreign possibilities because she has already established herself as a dominant force in the WNBA. She believes that Clark, who is still a relatively new player in the league, hasn't yet merited the opportunity to detract from more seasoned players. However, some people continue to think that Caitlin hasn't been targeted this year.
Caitlin is fantastic, and I think she's going to have an incredible career in the WNBA. There are women that were worthy of coverage prior to her arriving, and I just will not be silenced when it comes.
Wilson has previously found herself in direct rivalry with Clark for well-known transactions. Wilson allegedly attempted to sabotage Clark's Nike sponsorship in the past in an attempt to acquire the agreement for herself. The two players' developing enmity was alluded to in the Nike incident. However, the uproar in Europe has escalated the situation. Wilson has demonstrated how competitive and intimate this resistance has grown by intervening to prevent Clark from taking advantage of his international opportunity.
How do you miss an opportunity like that? How do you not capitalize? It doesn't make any sense at all. And playing the politics where, oh, we need to release Asia's shoe first. Well, no, it's not Caitlin's fault that you haven't done anything for Asia.
She probably anticipated receiving more attention from supporters, sponsors, and foreign teams after being named MVP. It seemed disrespectful to Wilson's accomplishments that Clark, a relatively unknown player, was now at the focus of discussions about the EuroLeague. However, Wilson feels that Clark's quick ascent has unfairly changed the story. Fans and media outlets have concentrated on Clark rather than Wilson's accomplishments and treated her as the WNBA's most important player. Wilson feels that she must defend her standing and stop Clark from seizing opportunities that she feels should be hers, which has led to a sense of competition that extends beyond the basketball court.
Caitlin Clark's the most valuable, most important person in the WNBA this year and should have been unanimous rookie.
Wilson's attempt to thwart Clark's pact with Europe is not unique. It displays a behavioral pattern that has developed over time. This rivalry has its roots in a previous dispute over a possible endorsement contract with Nike. Wilson reportedly attempted to sabotage Clark's attempts to negotiate the contract in order to establish herself as Nike's top WNBA agent. Although athletes sometimes vie for large endorsement deals, the manner this rivalry has developed indicates that Wilson views Clark as a direct danger to her career. An early indication of the two players' increasing hostility was the Nike incident. Getting a contract with Nike would have been a huge achievement for Clark and solidified her place among the best basketball players. However, Wilson, who is already well known, wasn't prepared to share the limelight. Wilson showed that she was prepared to do whatever it took to save her job by trying to thwart Clark's Nike deal. Clark's quick ascent presented more than simply a problem for her standing. It served as a reminder that the WNBA's terrain was evolving. Wilson has decided to compete with Clark for opportunities rather than accept this shift, which has created a contrast that has grown more intimate. Wilson's reasons for opposing Clark's Europe pact went beyond self-interest. Making a statement was the goal. She wished to remind everyone that she is still a formidable opponent and that she should be regarded as the best player in the league. Personal jealousy is the deeper problem at the center of this dispute. Wilson's behavior implies that she and Clark have a rivalry that extends beyond business rivalry. It goes beyond business dealings and basketball. It concerns the fight for acceptance and significance in a league that is changing quickly. The dynamics of the WNBA have been upset by Clark's entrance. Wilson, who used to be at the top, is now battling for attention in unexpected ways.
Wilson, 28 years old, 1,000 points in the regular season. Why is that not the biggest story out at the moment?
Exactly.
Why are we talking about Caitlin Clark?
Why when Asia was releasing a shoe, were we talking about Caitlin?
Wilson was one of the WNBA's biggest stars prior to Clark joining the league, receiving recognition and endorsements in the process. But the story has changed since Clark arrived. All of a sudden, Clark is the subject of media coverage, endorsement agreements, and fan assistance. Wilson has found it challenging to appreciate her accomplishments without feeling that Clark's ascent has eclipsed them as a result of this change. This jealousy is apparent in Wilson's remarks about Clark as well as in her behavior off the court. Wilson has made remarks that imply Clark had a simpler route to success, portraying her ascent as the product of privilege rather than diligence. Wilson feels she deserves to be at the top, but her remarks show how frustrated she is that the attention has moved away from her.
Who was unanimous MVP, which, by the way, is the first unanimous MVP in the NBA or the WNBA to ever not make the finals, which is something else. Fans are they're gonna share that. It does not mean that we are misogynistic or we're just hating on Asia. No, it's just this is what happens when a team loses.
The dramatic drop in viewership when Caitlin Clark isn't playing is one of the most obvious indications of her impact on the WNBA. Clark has turned into a fan magnet, drawing in viewers who would not have been interested in women's basketball before. However, the statistics reveal a concerning picture when she is not playing. Engagement declines and fans tune out. This trend exposes a painful truth, despite the fact that elite athletes like A.A. Wilson are still competing. Clark is more than just a gifted athlete. She is now the driving force behind the league's increasing appeal.
The reality, it wasn't what it is. The quality of basketball may have been up to snuff, and you had somebody as popular as Cheryl Swoops who had her own signature shoe, had to deal with Nike and all of this other stuff. But the bottom line is, very few people gave a damn.
Wilson and other elite players have kept up their strong play, but there is still little enthusiasm among fans. For Wilson, this disparity brings to light a sad reality. To command attention, talent alone is insufficient. Despite her accomplishments, Wilson has found it difficult to win over fans with her distinct charm and style of play. Although the league has always had outstanding players, Clark's entrance added something new and exciting that electrified the league's current supporters and attracted new ones. It appears that many fans become disinterested with Clark. As the league develops, it becomes evident that talent alone is insufficient to advance the game, even when other stars like Wilson are performing at the highest level. Instead, players must engage with fans, provide unforgettable moments, and build excitement, qualities that Clark offers in spades. Wilson has found it difficult to understand that Clark is the main source of fan attention, which has fueled their rivalry.
They decide what they want to do. We can point out how wrong it is. We can point out that that's a reality that shouldn't be a reality. But what we can't do is say, this is what matters. That doesn't. When the audience was telling you...
Some players feel ignored and undervalued as a result of the abrupt change in the league's dynamics due to the attention being drawn to Clark. These athletes, who see Clark's accomplishments as a threat rather than a victory for women's basketball overall, have voiced their frustration rather than applauding her success. This animosity has been apparent off the court as well. The WNBA's most fouled player, Clark, is being actively targeted by opponents. This is partly due to her playing style, but it also shows how tense things are becoming in the league. Players who are angry about Clark's success are committed to subverting her authority, even if it means playing physically.
Also need to, I don't know if an apology is warranted to Caitlin Clark, or they just need to, in general, do better.
The animosity toward Clark also highlights a more fundamental problem: the resistance to change. After years of developing their careers, many players watched Clark come and instantly establish himself as the league's face. Some have found it difficult to accept this quick change, which has resulted in criticism and jealousy. Some players focus on what they see to be unjust treatment, that is, that Clark has gotten more attention and opportunity than they had when they were coming up, instead of acknowledging the positive impact Clark has had on the league.